How are your salespeople doing it? Are they doing it much like we're doing today, using Zoom and things with your customers?
They have, as the world has become to embrace video conferencing like we are now, you know, they've become very used to that. I think at the beginning of this year, it was in a lot of quarters, in a lot of circles, it was still very much considered to be almost a bit gimmicky. And then people have their own inhibitions about whether or not they're comfortable, you know, being able to see yourself coming back at you, so, you know, I think the world has become accustomed to communicating like this, and the sales guys have definitely got a mixture now. I mean, one of our guys, Alex, my son, who's one of the sales guys that works with us. He's actually built what we've nicknamed his Zoom room in the bottom of the garden. So he's built a shed in the bottom of the garden that he can then go into, and he works from there most days now. It's definitely a mixture of the two. Personally, I really like it because there's in a lot of instances someone gives you a call and says, I'm really interested in having a chat with you about this. Can you come and see me about it? Where traditionally you'd then both be looking in diaries and you'd be saying, right, well, and that would maybe take 2 or 3 weeks. And this happened to me only last week. Someone gave me a call and said, we'd like to have a look at what you've done with Ultian, and we've not spoken for a while. And in a previous life, before the zombie apocalypse, that would have meant that we would have been waiting maybe a week, 2 weeks to be able to get together. As it was, I said, fine. Do you fancy a Zoom call tomorrow? And it makes things move on and the world move around that much quicker. So, I think there are benefits to working this way. It's a little like the mobile phone. In the early days when I started repping it, I know we got this pager, the godforsaken thing that would then occasionally buzz, and then we'd have to go and find a phone box somewhere. And we were spending hours and hours and hours in the car listening to the radio because there was nothing else that we could do. But I think the world's productivity must have accelerated so many times since the mobile phone came into people's cars, because now it's not wasted time. They're not listening to the radio. They're able to physically do work at the same time.
I mean, I've done a lot of these interviews, but yesterday I actually had a factory visit using Zoom and looking at product and going around a showroom and everything. Now, that worked really well. And it made me think more and more about traveling halfway down the country, spending a whole day traveling backwards and forwards and going for a factory visit, but being able to do it on Zoom and even having products demonstrated over Zoom. It was very, very good.
Yeah, and I've seen on social now, have you seen any of the virtual showrooms that are floating about?
Yeah.
Really, really impressive. And that's where, going back to where we started, I think if the tech is right, and if the tech is, and I'm sure there's elements of it that are still very embryonic, but if the tech does get this right, then, those virtual showrooms are very impressive.
Let's talk about your products and what you're doing at the moment, Nick. Can you sort of take me through where Brisant is at the moment and what you're really pushing at the moment? What are your main products?
Obviously, I mean, we're perhaps better known for Ultian, for what we've been doing. We've been working with Ultian now for 5 years. But I think very much 2020 originally was earmarked as something that we were going to be focusing very much on suite furniture. And, that would have been 2019. The opportunity with Ultian Smart came along. So there were things that we needed to do to develop a suite. That didn't happen in 2019 because, like I say, the opportunity for Ultian Smart arose. So we redirected and focused a lot of resource onto Smart. That's now done, that's sorted, and we've got a good, solid customer base that are buying Smart on a regular basis. And now we manage in November, December, we got the rest of the work finished on Suite. We relaunched that. and Suite's now really starting to pick up momentum. We've introduced some new designs and obviously introduced the new very popular rose gold colour. That's what we're busying ourselves with at the moment.
I mean, I was impressed looking at the testing that you'd done with Suite. That sounds phenomenal with the salt testing that you've been doing, and now you're offering 20-year warranty. I mean, that's a long old guarantee, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But there are other 20-year guarantees in the market. A 20-year guarantee isn't new. I think the difference, and we didn't launch Suite with a 20-year guarantee. We launched it with a 10-year guarantee. And there's the reason why we changed that was not because we wanted, when we launched the guarantee, we didn't want a headline grabber. It wasn't a marketing message. If we're going to give a guarantee, then we need to know that there's some substance, that there's actually some testing and some credibility behind it, rather than just going out and saying, we'll put 20 years on it, or we'll put 25 years on it, or bugger it, let's put 50 years on it. What does it matter? We waited until we had, and this was, I happen to have it handy, the letterbox that was in the salt spray chamber. I'm not sure if it's going to come through on here, but
yeah.
I polished this side down, but that was what it came out of the salt spray chamber like. And once it was rubbed down, it came out like that. And that's after a year in the salt spray chamber. So when you consider that the standard is 10 days, we waited until we'd physically got the product out of the chamber, until we knew that it was able to perform. Rotting and pitting door furniture has plagued the industry for as long as I can remember. It's a very sensitive point, and it's one of those points that I think as an industry we're very aware of, but by and large the homeowner isn't. And their expectation one of their expectations when they're buying a door is that it's going to last for a long time, and that they're not expecting the door furniture on there to start rotting within a couple of years, which was one of the reasons why we wanted to create Suite. But the 20-year guarantee, people put that on as a headline and they give it to installers and say, there you go, we've got a 20-year guarantee with it. Then in a year, sometimes months, but let's say in a few years' time, when it starts to rot, the homeowner calls the installer goes out, the installer's then having to change it. Invariably, they're changing it with the same product that rotted in the first place. The returns processes from the hardware companies are so clunky and unwieldy, they actually don't bother sending the faulty product back, which in some ways gives the hardware companies, or it gives them very little visibility as to how big an issue there actually is, because they're not getting them returned, as I say, because the returns processes are unwieldy. So, the 20-year guarantee that the installers carry from manufacturers, it's not a benefit to them, it's their liability, because they're the ones that are going to wind up carrying the can for it. And the sad irony is that invariably the hardware company winds up being the one that sells more than the original product, because then they get the replacement sale as well. Which is why we kept our powder dry on the 20-year guarantee until we'd actually done a test and we knew that we could put a 20-year guarantee on something that was likely to perform there and was going to achieve that, rather than it just being a headline. Just on that point also, something that we did that I think further confirmed our confidence in it was that, because there's always manufacturing tolerances, and so there's always going to be an occasional product that may have an issue. But what we've done with the 20-year guarantee is it's straight to the homeowner. The homeowner registers their guarantee with us. So if anything ever does go wrong with it, we sort it directly. The fabricator doesn't need to get involved and the installer doesn't need to get involved. We sort it.
I think that's a very important point, actually. You're absolutely right. Otherwise, the whole chain to get back to it is almost unwieldy, isn't it, really?
It's ridiculous. And, it's you look at the amount of work and hours and time, and the carbon footprint of a faulty letterbox is mad. So and at what point does the installer turn around and just say, "Oh, do you know what? Sod it, I'm just going to replace it."
Yeah.
It's just too much aggro than it's worth. I'll just put another one in, and then you're just waiting until next time, until eventually the house gets sold or someone changes their door and fatigue sets in.
I mean, how are you managing the whole supply chain thing?
We'd already stacked up with lots and lots of stock because of the potential for Brexit. So we'd already, because of the potential for a no-deal Brexit and the fact that we would potentially be left having to tell customers that we didn't have stock. So we'd already built up healthy stocks. February was our best ever month, both with Ultian and with Sweet. So we'd already placed stacked loads of orders to be able to maintain that demand or to be able to continue that. And then March the 23rd came round and everything stopped, apart from the fact that all those ships that had got our stock on were still going to be landing, and they were still going to be arriving and still needed to be paid for when they landed. So, when the world reopened, because we didn't actually close all the way through, we had to keep a very small team on, because the other side of the business supplies locksmiths and supplies emergency locksmiths. So unfortunately, nobody ever tells the bad guys that they've got to stop breaking into people's houses because there's a lockdown on. So locksmiths still need to change locks. So we had to maintain a small crew of people to maintain that side of the business. But when the rest of the world came back to work, we came back to colossal amounts of stock. I mean, it was everywhere. We were tripping over it. So we've been blessed with that. And since that point, just been placing very, very healthy orders and converting as much cash into stock as we can.
I mean, obviously everyone's very busy at the moment. Is it going to carry on? I mean, we all thought it probably would, and then it would sort of tail off when furlough ended and money ran out and things like this. But there's now no sign of any end coming, is there really? So what are we facing, do you reckon, going into next year?
Who knows? I mean, the speculation, Chris, about a V-shaped recovery, the W-shaped recovery, the U, the L, I don't think there were any letters left untouched. I mean, July was remarkable. I think everybody came back to loads of pent-up consumer demand. The problem that then created was that whilst everyone went around picking up loads of the pent-up demand, their capacity hadn't actually increased. So the result of that was lead times have gone out. From what I'm led to believe, and from the people that I speak to, I think we're, as an industry, it still seems very, very busy. Certainly, I think as busy as people would have hoped that October was going to be back in January. But I think the mad rush that was July and potentially early August has died down a tiny bit. But in some ways, that's got to be a positive thing, because I don't think that was incredibly sustainable.
It sort of came on us in a rush, didn't it? I mean, how popular has it become? We've all talked about it a lot, but is it actually transferring into sales to the general public?
Very much. We're really pleased with how Smart's doing, but our Smart product is an incredibly easy product to retrofit. So it's a very easy product consumer sale. It can take only 5 minutes to get set up and fitted to a door. I think it's driven very much from the back of the surge in smart homes. And it's a bit like a bug, to be honest, Chris, because someone might get a video doorbell, or they might get a smart home thermostat, and then they'll connect it up to something, and then when they're connecting it up, they'll see, oh, I could get this for it, and then I can plug that to it. And all of these little bolt-ons are now quite affordable, very easy, very intuitive bolt-ons that that you can add on to an existing system, and they're all talking to each other, and they're all talking through your phone, they're all talking to Samsung Smart Things, and so people, it kind of picks up momentum, and I think it's a bug that starts when people just buy one thing, or someone buys them something, and then they think, oh, I could just put that onto it, or I could just put that onto it. Door locking is one of those things. Invariably we're always carrying a door key around with us, so being able to automate, or to be able to put that within the same smart ecosystem makes it a very attractive proposition.
So we talked a lot about smart there, but security is kind of important. And I'm intrigued by what is most important: security, the smart side of things, or price when it comes to hardware?
Yourself in the homeowner's perspective, what's important to them? Because they don't buy hardware; they're buying the door.
Mm-hmm.
So what's important to them? It's important that they're buying a door that's going to keep the bad guys out. It's important that they want something that looks nice, and it's important that it's going to last, because it's not something that they're expecting to be having to buy every 2 or 3 years. So they're expecting it to last. So security is always, and in the research that we've done, it's always proven to be, I think the last one was, it worked out about 86% of people interviewed actually said that security was the single most important element or consideration when buying a new front door. Mm-hmm. And then came appearance, and then you got, I think the next one down was how thermally efficient it was.
Right. Price not coming into it.
There are so many factors with doors that price affects. A different glass style can have a greater impact than the security involved. I mean, if you were to look at, if someone's paying 1,000, 2,000, sometimes more for a door, like I said earlier, their expectation is that if they're paying that much money, they're expecting it to keep the bad guys out. And when you consider that, if at the installer level, it's not unknown, fabricators would generally charge circa £20-ish extra for someone to upgrade the door lock in their door to go to an Ultian lock. When you put that into the context of the £1,000, £2,000, £3,000, all of a sudden, at what point are we talking about price? The price is relevant to the person that's going to be buying the door, and they're expecting a door that's going to keep the bad guys out for more than 9 seconds.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, actually, that you make there. At the end of the day, you buy the best product that you can, don't you, for security?
Yeah.
As you said, a very small percentage of the total price that you're paying for the product.
And I think the next thing, we touched on earlier, is the expectation of the homeowner's expectation of how long they're expecting it to last for. They're not expecting that furniture to start rotting within a short period of time. And it's also such an incredible cost to the installer, which was, one of the reasons why we've had the success that we've had with Suite so far, because a lot of the installers have just got so tired over the years of having to go back and, replace and refit. And, whilst the manufacturing processes involved in making Suite products create the year in the salt spray performance, what that does do is mean that whilst it's going to cost a few quid extra to actually put it on the door, it's very much a fit and forget. Once the installers fitted that door, then the chances of that hardware pitting or rotting or causing an issue are so much smaller. And with our guarantee, if it does, it's not his problem anyway, because the homeowner can come straight to us and we'll sort it for them. So, it's a very small price for what the homeowner is already kind of expecting.
I had a question here about how you persuade the homeowner to spend more, but in fact, you've really answered that, in that what you're offering in the way of security or smart or whatever is such a small proportion of the total product they're buying, it becomes almost a no-brainer, doesn't it?
Honestly, Chris, if this goes wrong, you can come and get a job with me with lines like that. It's a kind of no-brainer. There's a headline.
But it's true, isn't it? I was thinking it of being expensive hardware and so on and so forth, but you put it into the context of being a percentage of the total product. And I hadn't really thought of it in that way, I must admit.
Yeah, no, proportionately, if you were going to take a cheap lock and you were going to get an expensive lock, or if you were going to get a door full of normal furniture and a door full of suite furniture, we didn't set out to create cheap products. We set out to create good products. We set out to create products that went beyond the standards. There's a question, particularly when it comes to salt spray, when you talk about a 240-hour salt spray test, or an enhanced one being 480 hours. We set out to create premium products that performed, and products that actually gave installers messages to be able to help them sell a door with. I don't know, unless you were, and I potentially ring-fence contemporary furniture, the new contemporary style furniture, from what I'm about to say, but door furniture, when someone's been selling a door to the homeowner, I don't feel as though they've been talking or using the door furniture that's fitted to that door as a benefit or a selling message that they've been using as a reason why the homeowner should buy their door. With Suite, we do get people now that are using Suite and are making that part of their presentation and using it as something that's helping them sell a door. And for something that's going to cost a few pounds extra, they've got more selling messages and more reasons for someone to buy a door from them.
Yeah, it also means that the installer, that must be a very strong message to be able to get people to sell your products, when you're saying, look, you don't have to worry about it. They can come direct to us. If there was ever a problem, you don't have to go and do refurbishments or replacements or whatever.
Yeah, no, very much. And, the cost difference is, when you put it into the perspective of how much the door is being sold for, like we said, it's infinitesimal comparatively.
Where does it go from here then? You've got security pretty much wrapped up. Are there further things that you can do as far as security goes?
As far as security goes, we've got a few products that we're developing at the moment that we'll be launching in 2021. We're extending the Ultian range so that Ultian it's going to reach out into other areas and into other types of door. We've got enhancements that we're making as far as security goes to Suite, because of course there's also the issue with security handles. Mm-hmm. We've got the lock handle. We've got some developments being made to that, and another handle that we're looking to introduce in the new year.
And what about the smart side then? If you've got security and you've got new things there, presumably smart will just keep developing, will it?
Smart is, the current form factor of smart, we're happy with. The performance of smart is good. And the nice thing about smart tech, or with tech, especially when you've got connected tech, is improvements and developments can be done by way of app updates or firmware updates. So there's going to be functionality that we've got on the roadmap to be able to put into smart, and that then not only makes it easier for us to be able to sell new smart products, but it's also kind of backwards compatible, because then all the existing customers get the benefit of that the moment it's released as well.
Right. What happens with training when it comes to your products, particularly now that people can't go out and show people? Is there training required for the installer or the fabricator?
We do an awful lot on Zoom, and we've got a video library that we created of bite-sized little videos that show people how to set certain elements up, how to set certain functions up, but a large part of this is about making everything, just making that user experience as easy and as quick and as intuitive as possible, so that they get it, they hold it, they turn their phone on, they look at it, and it's fairly obvious about what needs to happen. So as much as possible, we try to make things self-explanatory and intuitive, but it's also backed up with a wealth of videos. I think we've got 17 or 18 videos in the library there now.
We're looking, or we'll hope to see you at FIT.
Yes, we're in.
Otherwise, we shall see more and more of you through this type of media, I guess.
Absolutely.
And what you do in the trade press.
Yeah. No, very much.
Thank you very much for your time, Nick. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, me
always
too.
Happy to have an update from you on what you're doing in the way of hardware and security and so on.
Lovely. Thanks very much, Chris.
Thanks very much, Nick.
Cheers.